what we want to do is create an environment to where people are coming for overall game improvement. This is where they come to train, where they get feedback, where they get coaching, where they get lessons, things like that, in preparation for them to go out and play the best golf of their life on green grass.
What's up, guys? Back with another episode of the Wedgies podcast. This is episode 21. And back again is just the OG crew. So what's new with you guys? How's your week been?
Tell us about Minions.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I'm getting pretty roasted in the office today because the wife and I went and saw Despicable Me 4 last night. The only review I can really give is it is exactly what you'd think it'd be.
That's why I haven't gone to it.
No surprises, good or bad. There's a lot of Minion content, a lot of Steve Carell, and also this one features Will Ferrell doing the worst French accent you've ever heard, but in a way that helps the movie, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, we talked about that earlier and almost said that would make this experience better.
It did, yeah, totally.
So,
Anything Will Ferrell is usually a plus for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, hoping to, watch some good golf this weekend and kind of hang out
you got
there.
the Open coming up this weekend, the British Open. And who are you guys rooting for this week? Anyone in particular?
I saw a social media post actually just before we started that in the middle of Victor Hovland's practice round, he got hand-delivered an ice cream cone. And so I'm all in on Victor Hovland this week.
Because of that?
I'm all in on
Was that
Hovland.
a request? Or was that
I have no idea
fan
how it
mail?
happened. It was like a last second, like I said, just scrolling Twitter before we came down here. So whatever Hovland's cooking up this week, it's obviously sugar infused. So I'm all in. I'm down on Hovland.
Yeah. What about you, Tan?
I want to see, who typically plays well in the Open and plays well in Europe because he's European? My boy Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay, but
And I'm hoping, I'm always rooting for Tommy, and he always plays well in those windy conditions, and so my money's not on him.
right.
But I would hope he can get something done this weekend.
I was going to say, I love Tommy as well, but to put him in top 5.
No,
top 10 or top
I'm not hanging my life on this one. But that's what I would like to see. So I'm rooting for my boy Tommy.
I guess it's not that much of a hot take, but I think Sahith is going to...
Oh, I thought you were going to say Scotty.
No.
Oh, wow.
Scotty Scheffler? Wow, surprising.
No, I don't know. He's just been in there enough this year that I feel like he's bound to...
And he had a little bit of a heartbreak a few weeks ago that I think, that could be some motivation.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, for sure.
I like that.
And then also Rory. Rory, he's got to take it.
He's got to redeem
He's got to
himself.
get one this... Yeah.
Well, I think one guy that we're all rooting for, maybe because of local connections and some of our client connections, is Phil Mickelson.
Yep.
Which I know is something that we all kind of wanted to talk about in the intro today, because not sure if the viewers have seen this. We'll kind of run through for context, but Phil Mickelson and Grant from previously from Good,
Grant Horvat,
recently did a awesome challenge video, 18-hole challenge video that if you haven't seen, 9 holes are on Grant's channel, 9 holes are on
the High Flyers channel.
On the High Flyers channel.
Yes.
Excellently shot, by the way, featuring our buddy Reese Hansen, one of the Wedge partners.
Yes.
But one of the really cool things about this challenge was that Grant made a deal with Phil that if he won, Phil would have to wear Primo joggers at the Open.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, Grant has a really great relationship with Primo, and he's had a long-standing kind of influencer relationship as well as a partnership with them.
He's an owner now.
As well as having ownership in the company. And so with that being the case, it's a really cool thing. I don't know. I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts and takes on what the partnership is and what your guys' thoughts were and what he was able to do there.
We watched the first little bit in the office just as we were finishing up the day yesterday. Or no, 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah.
And then I actually watched the back 9 on Phil's channel yesterday as I was working from home. And the first thing that's really standing out to me, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, wow, like Phil is now getting on like a YouTube channel and starting to do this. And obviously Bryson's been doing it for a while. I know John Rahm was on Grant's channel with the Bryan brothers, I think, a couple weeks or a month ago. Anyways, but the fact that we're seeing Phil Mickelson now kind of come down to the YouTube level, I think it's showing so much that like even these top pros that have, you know, the most distinguished careers are recognizing the need and the opportunity that is YouTube golf and connecting with this younger audience in that way. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion on how the landscape is changing in that realm.
No, I mean, it's spot on. I've talked about maybe on the podcast before, I'm not 100% sure, but I was watching golf up home with mom and dad, like this was a little bit ago. But a Callaway commercial came on and it featured all of their athletes, and it had like, at the end of it, it kind of ended with the athletes lined up in their kind of V logo, you know, and then it was like Rom at the front, and, you know, some of the other guys that you would expect to see there. But what caught me is like maybe 5 or 6 seconds in, it's showing these clips of their pro athletes. And then like the very next person I saw was Stephen Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And then like another pro. And then it was like some of the good guys. And I was like, I'd never seen that before.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And then in their lineup, they're all like, Steph is in there. Good dudes are in there with like Rom, right?
Yeah. And
I was like, I'd never seen a spot like that from a golf company that like blatantly features non-professional golfers.
Uh-huh.
I think more companies will go that way. I think they should go that way. I think this is just the beginning of it. But it makes a ton of sense because personalities like that are so accessible to this newer generation of golfer. Not necessarily the legacy guys, but to these newer players. Maybe we even call them like post-COVID players, which is a huge demographic, and these companies are starting to recognize that.
Yeah.
And these players, like you said, like Phil, is a brand
100%.
as well, starting to recognize, hey, if I want to stay legitimate or if I want to continue to grow or be a voice in this space, even post-retirement, like, I need to embrace this type of golfer in this group.
For sure. I think it's definitely got stay power, and I think that a lot of these challenges and YouTube matches and the Good Open are like starting to prove that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wanted to dive further into this Phil Mickelson Primo deal because obviously we watched it, and I think through the front nine, Grant had a 5-stroke advantage from the first hole, and I think by the 9th or 10th hole, Grant was like 2 back or something.
Well, he doubled the first hole to Phil's par. Like he immediately lost,
which
2
was
strokes.
so funny because Phil totally got in his head,
he had him
like,
in the
right
blender.
off the bat. But
yeah.
I thought it was really cool how personable Phil was in that setting. Like he had all the right to just be like, you know,
Not care.
you're in my arena. Like I can totally, you know, mop the floor with you. But he was super himself, which was cool, but also just like a fountain of knowledge. And as they were going through the course, it was awesome to see Phil walk through his shots and his thought process. And I was reading through the comments after the video, and that was like there was nothing but praise on both channels for this video. And I just thought that was interesting. And I also wanted to get your guys' take on that. Why do you think that just the content itself was so good compared to maybe some previous videos?
Excuse me. I think that has a lot to do with, and this is kind of what I think my biggest lesson in all of this is the power of partnership versus, you know, maybe transactional relationships that people can have with their influencers or with their partnerships. If you look at like someone like Grant or even look at Phil, both of them, when they're making this deal at the beginning about what the challenge is going to be, Phil is very incentivized to push his personal brand, his wellness company that he works for and that he owns. And then Grant's, because he has a partnership and he's more deeply involved with Primo, he's in pushing Primo as part of that deal. And so you kind of look at this and it's like you have these two guys who are a natural fit on the course. You have Phil, you have Grant. They're awesome together. They're doing all this great conversation. But to get that level of sponsorship and what the paid value of that would need to be is incredibly high. And you're never going to get that level of motivation. Like, you know, when you kind of just say like, hey, X influencer, I need you to do this post for this much money. You're going to get exactly that. And very few times you're going to get any more. If usually you'll end up getting a little less, and it's kind of a mail it in type of a situation. What I really loved about this video is it felt so natural to include that partnership into it and to include what that partnership could be. Even to the point where when I saw Phil this morning post himself at the Open wearing the Primo joggers, it still doesn't feel like a sponsored post. It feels like a jawing back and forth with Grant and the relationship that they have.
There's a story.
Which, for the record, Phil ended up losing,
right?
And he is going to be wearing
He's out there right now
Yeah,
practicing in some
Primo.
primos, and so and that's the thing is it feels like I'm in on these two guys' relationship on the course and what they're doing. I'm not in on a brand deal that these two guys are pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest lesson that if I was a brand and I was watching this, or I'm an agency that works on this like ourselves, is how can you have relationships with influencers that are no longer transactional, but are partnerships? And that doesn't mean you necessarily need to go as big as, maybe a Primo has or Callaway has with Good, where you have these really ingrained partnerships. But what can you do to incentivize both parties to win so that when they have these great opportunities, something as big as Phil Mickelson being on, Grant's channel and Grant being on Phil's, that it's exciting for him to include Primo in that relationship.
Yeah, his skin in the game, right? And I would say hats off to Maddie and the boys at Primo
Incredible.
for not only, landing Grant and a talent like him and a name like him, but also understanding that with him comes access and connect. It's a partnership, right? As an owner, you're incentivized to grow your business, which is more than just an influencer post or a sponsored athlete, right? Super smart, and I loved that he was able to bring a local brand like Primo into a worldwide spotlight.
Well, and the whole time I was watching it, and even after, I was sitting there thinking, like, how much thought went into this video and this idea and Phil himself. And whether there was a whole strategy behind it or not, I think Phil is the perfect candidate for this challenge because Phil's such a traditional golfer, right? And for the longest time is just kind of stuck in his lane of what he wears and what he does. And I think Primo came in and they were able to, for a short period of time, like disrupt that. And that's going to be more controversial and just in nature gain more attraction, more attention. So again, I don't know if it was planned out or thought out or if it was just like, hey, now we have Grant and this is the first big video he's doing it. But either way, I think it worked out perfectly. And I think Phil was the ideal person to do that.
Totally. Compared
Compared to like Bryson. Like Bryson probably would wear joggers and Ron probably would wear joggers out on the course. Whereas Phil,
it's going to be a talking point.
Yeah, exactly.
The same way that Jason Day and Malvin are a talking point every week. You can bet your bottom that he's going to be on the broadcast and
They're
on the
gonna say
broadcast
something about it.
Something about his new fit.
New fit, and mention the challenge. And again, that's why we love this so much. And as we've all talked about it personally, like it really excited us, not just because as marketers we love the idea, but also having that connection with Maddie and his team over at Primo. It was really cool to see a local Utah company win in such a big and unique way. And I think we look at it throughout the rest of the week and
they continue to get free press like this.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
We're talking about it too. But anyways, we're gonna have another guest on a little bit later. He's been on the pod before, but we're excited to dive into Scratch. It's Jesse from Scratch Golf Lab, and we'll catch up with him, see what he's been building, and chat through some of that stuff. So we'll have him on in just a bit.
All right, as mentioned, we are back with Jesse McClean from Scratch Golf Lab, and I love that you came in uniform today with the long day challenge. I don't believe that.
I just woke up and this was in the closet.
It's a good shirt, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you were out at Long Day this year in a big way, not only as a player but also as a sponsor. Yeah. We had a big podcast last week, just jawing about Long Day. Obviously, we're biased. What was your opinion on the event last week?
I'm bittersweet. As a player standpoint, I didn't play well enough to make the final derby, so I was a little salty
you
about
gotta
that.
come back next year.
I got to come. I need to get back in the lab so that next year I can make the derby.
There you go.
You should get like a simulator membership or something.
Something like that.
I think I know somebody. So from a player standpoint, it was actually really fun. It was a long day. There was a lot of golf. I realized that I have a lot of work ahead of me, but from a sponsor standpoint, it was amazing. It was such a unique environment to be with people that are so talented. I mean, the caliber of golfer that you rub shoulders with at that tournament was amazing. And so just to have that type of demographic of people who take golf that seriously was really insightful for me as a sponsor, just to say, like, this is my section of, this is my customer base, and how can I elevate my offering so that we can help you guys, take your game to the next level and become the best golfers that you want to be. So it was really fun, and we're really grateful that we were able to participate in a sponsorship. And so we hope that we're associated with that tournament for many years to
Oh,
come.
definitely.
Well, we
No, you're locked
had
in.
a blast with you guys up there. For the listeners that weren't at the event, we had a long drive competition
Yeah.
with Scratch, and you had some trackmans brought up, and we had like tee boxes and tents and all that, so like felt very official. And the winner of the long drive contest
357 yards.
on an
Yikes.
uphill range,
Yes.
mind you, pretty impressive.
Very.
And it was a round at Black Desert for 2.
Correct.
Right? And my favorite part about that whole thing was the insanely
Oh, the giant
comedically
check.
massive check
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
the
yeah.
giant check.
for the
Well,
winner.
That coupled with the winner had gone to the bathroom.
Correct.
Remember this?
Oh,
Correct.
Yeah.
And we thought he had left, so we gave it to
To the second place.
runner-up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the winner shows back up, and we had just given away.
Oh, and he was animated when he
I know.
showed up too.
So fortunately, the people at Black Desert were very accommodating, and we ended up giving first place and second place
They end up giving the prize, which is
Yes.
good on you.
trips to Black Desert.
I do want to talk about this giant check.
Big
And
check.
we'll when we post this on social, we'll include the photo of that check. So you called me, I think the day of the event or the day before.
Yeah, Dane has a connection with somebody
Right.
at a print shop.
Right.
Yes.
And I sent him the file to say, I need a big check. Can you use your connection to get a big check? But I should have specified, what are the dimensions of a
Well,
big
it's not
check?
only that. So how this went down was you send this to me. So I call my connection. I say, hey, I need a giant check. And he says, how big?
Yeah.
And I don't know what a giant check looks like. So I just tell him just what you normally would print a big check
Yeah, you
at.
can tell they've never printed these checks
Yeah,
before.
clearly.
The next call I get is from Jesse going, did you order a 10-foot check?
It was
It was,
so big.
it was a 4x8. Just think of a 4x8 sheet of plywood.
Yeah.
That is a giant check. And I showed up and I thought it was like a joke, like it was a hidden camera show that Dane was going to be like behind the curtain waiting for my reaction.
It was a big check, and I recently watched the clip back of the guy coming to get his check.
Yeah.
And we're like, here you go. And when he lifts the check up, but I've watched the video, and he kind of has to like hoist.
It like disappears behind it.
Yeah, and he kind of has to like get the lower back involved and kind of.
Yeah.
It was that big.
No, but it made for a memorable moment.
It was
It
a
was
good
awesome.
comedic moment. We got a
Yes.
smaller check that was much more
That
portable.
one he
manageable.
can frame at home.
Yeah.
The
But
other one, it would be his wallpaper.
It would be his front door.
that 4x8 check is in my office now. It's now like my background behind.
Oh, it is.
So when I'm on Zoom calls, I have
You
this
just have a
ginormous
massive
like
check.
4x8 check.
Oh, I love it.
But yeah, that was a funny moment.
Oh man. Well, Jesse, I'm glad you could come back on. Part of the reason that we wanted to talk to you again is because we had no one better. No, just kidding. No, it was honestly because obviously we work closely together, being involved with Scratch and kind of what you're building over there,
Yeah.
and we've had a lot of really awesome conversations.
Yeah.
About kind of how do you make an offering that stands out. And
Yeah.
this is something we work on across our clients and work on, a lot of different stuff. And with a lot of the brands that we're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we've been doing this, I think it was an interesting opportunity to kind of talk to you about, as we've been having these conversations and as we've been working on, the Scratch offering, and you kind of hinted on it before in your chat about Long Day with, hey, we have all these, we have this very core demographic that we're going after of golfers that are serious about the game, that really want to improve.
Yeah.
How are we creating an offering that's unique to them? I would love to kind of start there and kind of talk about what has your thought process been as you've been going into that exercise.
Yeah, I think since last time we spoke, behind the scenes, we've been really busy on evaluating what are the compelling value offerings that we need to start introducing within the business in order to elevate the value of a membership or just any kind of participation in Scratch. And so something that we've really focused on is everybody knows within our industry, the lowest barrier to entry is I'm just going to put a simulator up and I'm going to let people come play unique courses. And that's kind of, we've checked that box. That was kind of the first iteration. Now that we're starting to look at Act 2, we look at what is kind of the ethos and the core of the Scratch brand. And at its heart, it's really about helping people on their path towards Scratch golf.
Mm-hmm.
Of not all of us are going to get there, but the process by which we get there, that's what we're really focused on. And so behind the scenes, what we've been really focusing on the last couple months and what you're going to start to see materialize within the business is a lot of different offerings associated with club fittings and lessons and clinics and partnerships with courses so that people have, this is just an extension. They come and they train and then they go off and they play on green grass. And so all those additional supplementary offerings are adding to the value of a membership to Scratch, because we feel like in order for you to play your best golf, it's more than just playing unique courses. You need the training aids, you need the access to swing coaches and training plans and club fittings and courses. And so that's really what we've been focusing on the last couple of months, that you'll start to see materialize in late summer and early fall.
I think, one thing we talked earlier in this episode about like YouTube golf, for example, and golf content. One thing that I think is starting to become more popular, I think as a result of that as well, is data, right?
Yeah.
Obviously on the pro circuit, that's been a staple for a long time, but now in fun ways, showing people the data, I think is starting to make sense in people's minds. They want to know their stock yardages, how far they hit certain things. One thing that's been interesting for me, I've been lucky enough to take, quite a few of my friends into Scratch locations. It's fun to play courses in the wintertime, right? Here, especially with the seasonality. But what's kept a lot of my friends coming back with me in the summertime is the fact that either their first or second or third time that we're there, and maybe they're dealing with a slice, right? They're slicing the ball a lot. And trying to explain to somebody, they ask me, right? I've, a little more experience than they are. Why am I slicing it? Well, there's a number of reasons that you could be, but like most likely it's your swing path based on you and the way that the ball's flying. Them not really understanding what that means when you explain it to them, but then you get on the TrackMan and you can see the numbers, you can see the lines and things like that. It makes sense in your head, right? You need those types of visual aids and those things to play better golf out on the golf course.
100%.
And so I love that in the offering and in the thinking behind everything, we're not trying to take you off of the golf course and put you indoors. No, right? Let's give you the tools, excuse me, that you need inside, that you can only get inside with the technology that's available to help you perform better outside.
Yeah.
Right? It's a partnership.
Yeah, 100%. And this was something that was really unique that I saw when we did the long drive competition, because we brought the TrackMan out to the range and somebody would hit and I would tell them their spin rate and they automatically knew whether or not they just won.
They were in contention.
If they were in contention or not. And it was so funny because these data points are starting to become so commonplace that serious golfers, no longer they're just going off a feel.
Yep.
They're relying on these data points and these metrics to tell them how proficient they are. And so like the guy who just smashed at 357, he hit it and he didn't even ask me his yardage. He said, what was my ball speed and what was my spin rate?
Incredible.
And I told him those two and he said 353. And I said 357. And so it was really, really, it was a revelation to me. Like the serious golfers, they're relying on this information and they're using it as ways to kind of close that feedback loop in order to accelerate their rate of improvement.
Well, and that's one thing that's interesting because, and again, we should probably provide context for anybody who doesn't know what Scratch is. Obviously, when we first started Scratch, it was you built this as a golf simulator location.
Yeah.
But as we've kind of been talking more, you've been mentioning it more as a golf membership.
Yeah.
Kind of explain that to me, kind of what your thought process is there, and where it's not just like, hey, this is a simulator membership, but this is a golf membership and a training membership.
Yeah. Well, I think what we want it to be is encompass so much more than just unique courses on a simulator. We want it to be the place where you come and it's your source of truth for all things golf related outside of playing on the green grass. And so with that membership comes access to, swing lessons, personalized training plans, club fittings, things like that. And so what we want to do is create an environment to where people are coming for overall game improvement. This is where they come to train, where they get feedback, where they get coaching, where they get lessons, things like that, in preparation for them to go out and play the best golf of their life on green grass. And so we want to create a membership plan that people can come and have access to all of those things on an ongoing basis, because it has to be a membership because, as we know, golf is a journey more than it is a destination. And so we want to be your partner in that journey and help you every step of the way to use all of those things, all of those resources that you need in order to play your best game.
And I think that's a really cool thought process. And, as we've been, working alongside you on this and talking with you, it's kind of been one of those, like, innovation breeds is kind of breeding that, or was it necessity breeds innovation?
Yeah,
the thing.
necessity is the mother of invention.
That's what it is. Where because in Utah we have so many of these simulators.
Yeah,
It's such a hotbed for indoor simulators because the seasonality and how strong it is here. You can't be unique by just popping up a simulator and just opening the door and saying, come play 24/7. That's been done. It's been done very well, and it's been done often.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, okay, we have this necessity and this need now to innovate, to try and become unique and really think through what are we offering as a membership? What are we actually providing to people that's going to get them to where they want to go?
Yeah.
I guess my question for you in kind of saying all that is, what's been kind of the North Star as you've been trying to figure that out? What is kind of like the main thing that keeps, Jesse up at night to make sure that you're kind of providing that?
Yeah. When I lay in bed at night thinking about the business, I think about how do we help people play better golf? That's all that I care about and all that I try to focus on within the business. And I feel like I can't help people play better golf by just opening up a facility and letting them play unique courses. That's fun and that's compelling, but I don't feel like you get better at golf by just going and playing Pebble Beach or any of these. You get better at golf by having access to some of these training aids and some of these resources in order to accelerate your rate of improvement. And so that first step in the business was obviously opening up a facility and letting people come play. Now this is Act 2, where we start to get serious about what the brand is and what the ethos and what our mission is, which is to help people play better golf. Because all of us have had that experience where like you just have that kind of like chef's kiss shot. You're like, this is intoxicating.
Yeah.
I want more of that.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do. We want to help people have more of those opportunities and more of those experiences, because that's what is fun, especially when you do it with people that you enjoy being with.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's, and kind of part of the reason we also wanted to have you on today was a little bit of that building in the open, building in public, and kind of, just kind of taking people along the journey of building a business like Scratch. What's been the biggest challenge you've been facing up in the kind of as you've gotten this phase 2 off the ground?
Yeah, I think that I kind of hit on this in a previous podcast, but it's you wear so many hats in this role. Like I've been in organizations before where like you go have a strategy session and then you hand it off to like an operations team or, field service or whatever it may be. This is, I have a good idea. Now I have to actually go implement and operationalize that idea from point A to point B and all the way down to Z. And so, there's lots of good ideas, but when you're at this stage of entrepreneurship and small business, the buck starts and stops with you. And if anything's going to happen, it's ultimately on your shoulders. And so that's just been the biggest thing. And now that I own and operate 5 stores, working on long-term initiatives while also not taking your eye off the ball on the day-to-day and making sure that you provide a good membership experience for our current base. So that's just the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur and starting a small business, though. But I find it extremely rewarding and extremely fulfilling, and so I wouldn't be anywhere else, to be honest.
I love that, and I can speak for all of us on our team when I say like, how long we've been working together now? We've known you for a little bit, but how long we've been working together?
Probably like 9 months.
Yeah.
Dane's the king of LinkedIn. He hit me on LinkedIn a couple of years ago, but
yeah.
But yeah, from like a marketing and an advertising and strategy standpoint, it's been about 9 months.
That's crazy. Well, I know, from our side, it's been like an absolute blast to work with you and help develop the Scratch brand. We've been able to do some really cool things as a result of it. We've learned a lot as well along the journey. I absolutely love having access to the facilities. That's helped.
Well, good.
That's helped my golf game. Exactly. That's helped my golf game, helped my friends too. I've been able to get some friends into it as well, which I think is, at the end of the day, what it's all about, right? Like growing the game and introducing it to people in a fun way and giving them the hope that they, because that you said that shot is intoxicating, you know, and golf's like whatever to a lot of people until you feel
until
that
you have one of those shots.
Exactly. And you're like, oh man. And so giving people access to the opportunity to have that, but then to also develop it, I think is huge.
One day I'll have one.
Dane's working on it.
Still waiting.
Dane's had 1 or 2.
But one or two is enough, you know?
It's true.
Exactly.
So it's been an absolute blast over here. I'm excited to see what we continue to do as we develop out this offering and
Yeah.
market it and message it and get it in front of the right people and, you know, communicate it in a effective way. Because I think like exactly what you just shared today is the feeling for a lot of people, especially
Totally.
in this state.
Yeah.
Golf is insane. I always find it interesting when we talk to people outside of the state that are in the golf space. They don't realize how hot golf is here because we do have seasonality.
Yeah.
So you would think, you know, maybe it's not like California, Texas, Florida, whatever. It's insane here.
Crazy.
Well, and the course that's obvious by the fact that when you call a course right now to get a tee
Oh.
time, like it's hard. Sometimes you're a week out.
You can't even get them on a weekday anymore,
Yeah.
on like a Wednesday.
Yep. And so
Yeah.
golf's never been hotter, but at the same time, we realize like when you go play a course, you want to go have fun, you want to get your money's worth, but you're not going to play a round of 18 to work on your shot shape or
No,
your spin
yeah.
rate or any of that
You're
stuff.
going to score.
You're going to score. And so what we want to do is be the training place that you are at before you go out onto green grass and to play. And so we're excited that golf has never been more popular within the state. And obviously, I think that kind of goes
Nationwide.
outside of the state
Yeah.
as well,
Totally.
just by virtue of, I mean, the stuff with the Open and Scotty's on a heater and Grant and
Mm-hmm.
and Phil. And so we're just really excited, and we want to help provide a unique training place for people so that they can be a part of that wave.
So about before we wrap up here, one kind of last question I have for you is, as you've been diving into this new offering and kind of really boiling down what Scratch is,
Yeah.
it's making me think about a conversation that we had on our podcast as a team last week, and I know we've been talking about offline and meetings and all this kind of stuff, is defining the difference between perceived value
Oh, yeah.
and received value, and kind of, hey, how are you going to, what is the value that these customers truly define, and what is the value that they put on certain aspects versus maybe the value that you as the person paying for it is going to put onto it. How has that kind of push and pull played into what you're doing at Scratch?
Yeah, well, we want to offer as much value as possible to people. And so we've kind of looked at what are the main value propositions that we can identify within the landscape of this demographic, and which ones do we really want to implement. And so we ultimately have started to curate a package of really compelling value propositions. But at the end of the day, it's up to the individual member on how much of those they're going to take advantage of. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And so all that we want to do is provide the opportunity, but at the end of the day, it's up to you on how much you want to take advantage of that. And so like kind of what we've talked about, we're going to be implementing things like gym memberships and club fittings and access to courses and swing lessons and things like that. Now, all of that is perceived value unless you actually take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest thing, is we just want to give you the opportunity to utilize that. And at the end of the day, it's your choice.
I love it. Well, hopefully I start to take advantage a little more and have one or two more of those sweet shots.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping for here. But no, I think it's awesome. And like we said earlier, like it's been really fun to work with you, not just because we like you as an individual.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I promise that we didn't not have anybody better, but it's because we also are really intrigued into what you're building, and you're building something I think that's legitimately unique and legitimately has an opportunity to stand out, or else, you know, we wouldn't be as excited about it as we are. And so that's, you know, Godspeed ahead, and we're excited to see what you build.
Cool. Good to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, same.
Love
All
it.
right. Thanks.